What do you know is true without evidence? What are you certain of, right down to your bones, without proof? There's a travel agency that's been around in my town for as long as I can remember. I wholeheartedly believe it's a front for the mob. You better keep quiet or you'll be taking an unexpected trip. I'm quietly convinced I made a best-selling mystery novelist change the way he writes because I criticized him on Reddit. The novelist in question is Chris Carter. The books are the Robert Hunter series. Yes, the guy who has built a career on looking for serial killers is named Hunter. He works for the LAPD's ultra-violent crime unit. It's not a series that's overburdened by subtlety, is what I'm saying. They are as schlocky a bunch of thrillers as you could ever hope to find, but for some reason I can't get enough of them, despite the fact that they're very much not great. They lean pretty damn heavy on ridiculous tropes, and I've never seen a more Mary Sue lead than I have in this series, but the biggest complaint I have with them is that the same line appears almost literally word for word in the first 9 books. I made a comment about it on Reddit on n/r/books thread about your favorite terrible authors, and I went back through all of the books published so far just to prove my point. The Crucifix Killer, the famous line, doesn't actually appear in this book as far as I could find, but Hunter does drink scotch near constantly as the defining trait of his character. Across the room a stylish bar looked totally out of place. It was the only piece of furniture Hunter had purchased brand new and from a trendy shop. It held several bottles of Hunter's biggest pain single malt Scotch whiskey. The bottles were arranged in a peculiar way that only he understood. And so it begins. The Executioner. Single malt Scotch whiskey was Hunter's biggest pain. But unlike most people, he knew how to appreciate it instead of simply getting drunk on it. Note that in this one and the next Carter doesn't even use the Scottish spelling, whiskey, rather than whiskey, despite the fact that this is literally Hunter's only character trait. The Night Stalker. Hunter's biggest pain was single malt Scotch whiskey, but unlike most, he knew how to appreciate its flavor and quality instead of simply getting drunk on it. The Death Sculptor. Hunter sat at the bar and ordered a double dose of 12-year-old Glendronach with 2 cubes of ice. Single malt Scotch whiskey was his biggest pain, and though he had overdone it a few times he knew how to appreciate its flavor and quality instead of simply getting drunk on it. The Hunter. Hunter's father had a pain for single malt Scotch whiskey, a pain that, frankly, Hunter had never understood. He found whiskey, any type of whiskey, way too overwhelming for his palate. I actually quite like this one. It's a prequel novella, so this one is a nice little meta throwback. It gets a par from me. 1 by 1. Hunter would never consider himself an expert, but he knew how to appreciate the flavor and robustness of single malts, instead of simply getting hammered on them. Though, sometimes, getting hammered worked just fine. This is also the first appearance of the "but sometimes getting drunk works just fine, am I right?" addendum. It's nice to see Carter branching out a little, but after this, he never looks back. An Evil Mind. Single malt Scotch whiskey was Hunter's biggest pain. Unlike so many, he knew how to appreciate its palate instead of just getting drunk on it, though sometimes getting drunk worked just fine. I'm Death. Back in the living room, wrapped in a white towel, Hunter switched on a floor lamp and dimmed its intensity to medium. That done, he approached his drinks cabinet, which was small, but held an impressive collection of single malt Scotch whiskey, which was probably his biggest pain. Though he had overdone it a few times, Hunter sure knew how to appreciate the flavor and quality of a good single malt, instead of simply getting drunk on it. The Caller. Hunter's biggest pain was single malt Scotch whiskey. Back in his apartment, tucked in a corner of his living room, an old-fashioned drinks cabinet held a small but impressive collection of single malts that would probably satisfy the palate of most connoisseurs. Hunter would never consider himself an expert on whiskey, but, unlike so many, he at least knew how to appreciate its flavor and quality, instead of simply getting drunk on it, though sometimes getting drunk worked just fine. The Caller also gets double points for helpfully informing us that women just don't get the subtle nuances of Scotch. Hunter tried not to frown at her again, but he was sincerely intrigued. Women in general weren't very fond of Scotch whiskey, which wasn't at all surprising. Whiskey was undoubtedly an acquired taste, one that at first would certainly overpower anyone's palate and knock the air out of their lungs in the process. Hunter knew that only too well. The trick was to persist, to keep trying. to keep sipping it until one day it finally made sense. Women usually weren't that patient with drinks. They either liked it at first sip or they didn't. This, by the by, is how we know that the woman in question is trustworthy, because reasons. Gallery of the Dead. Back in his apartment, Hunter had a small but impressive collection of scotch that would probably satisfy the palate of most connoisseurs. He would never consider himself an expert, but unlike so many of his friends, who also claimed to enjoy single malt scotch whiskey, he knew how to appreciate the flavors and robustness of the malts, instead of simply getting drunk on them. Though sometimes getting drunk worked just fine. That post was made in January of 2019. In April, his book Hunting Evil came out, and the line was nowhere to be seen. I didn't think much of it until his new book, Written in Blood, came out a few days ago, and also didn't have the line in it. This comment is also one of the top answers if you Google his name and the book series via Reddit. Exactly what you'd do if you were looking to see if people on the internet were talking about your books. I also can't find any evidence of anyone else pointing this out in a review or such like. So yeah. In short, 3 months after I made that comment, he broke the habit of a decade of writing and finally decided that after 9 stories that use this as a crutch for Hunter's personality, it was too much. I know you're reading this, Chris. I know. Wonder if your boy Chris enjoys him some single malt scotch whiskey. Reddit supermods have the ability to give unlimited free awards on Reddit. This allows them to make certain opinions more visible and normalizes paying real money for Reddit images. Edit. Whoever gilded this comment, your mom's a ho-ho carrot. Edit 2. Fine you win. You/Super Dago currently at 56 awards. I'm deleting this account. If it gets to 69, well that's that. Be good to each other. They are giving out free coins to spend on awards. My brother deleted my game save on purpose. He was old enough to read. He knew what he was doing. I did. Most of this is just busy work. Currently sitting here taking help desk calls. Can confirm. There is no meaning to this. My sister ate the whole ice cream box without asking my parents. Edit. I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but she didn't leave any ice cream. I don't know what happened to the box. Like the box too? That a lot more famous actors than we realize are secretly the children of other famous actors from the previous generation. I call it the Hollywood Astard theory. A startling number of famous actors and musicians had rich or famous parents already connected in the industry. It seems the outsider making it big is more and more rare. 100 years from now only a handful of kids and grandkids will have any memory of my life. 200 years from now, at most I'll be a photo in an old family scrapbook with my name in the margin space. 300 years from now no one in my family will know I existed outside of a half-finished family tree. Yet ultimately all of their hopes and pains, successes and failures, dreams and depressions will be the direct result of my having existed. So it isn't that bad. Damn dog, this hit different. That gardening is the secret to happiness. Sounds super strange, especially coming from someone like myself, an ex-World of Warcraft gamer. I had kids, got busy with work, wanted out of the suburbs, got some land in the country, and started planting stuff. Years later I have what I call a food forest. I have replaced lawns with fruit trees, bushes, vines, flowers, all woven together to mimic a natural forest, except everything in it is edible. It has changed my life completely. I just think there's something about being outside in the sun, feet on soil, hands in dirt, planting cheese, watching it grow in the background of your life, going out and checking on it, and watching how much bigger it is getting, watching life find it, and now you get to live with the natural world, not isolated from it. Birds making nests in your trees, frogs making home in your ponds, seeing bees all around your flowers, butterflies everywhere, rabbits and squirrels moving in, then owls moving in to eat those. It's this wonderful trophic cascade that you started, and it's incredibly rewarding. Plus, being able to just walk outside and get chemical-free nutrient-rich dinner is amazing. You can see my food forest in my post history if anyone is interested in seeing what I'm doing. I actually think a big reason depression is such a big thing these days is because we have all become so disconnected from the life that we evolved in for the last 6 million years. We evolved walking around savannas and forests, pulling food off bushes and trees, out in the sun, feet in the soil, hands in the dirt. We couldn't be further from that, living inside our isolated homes, cars and offices. It's no wonder we're all so depressed. I think gardening is the secret to happiness. Edit. Okay, wow, this blew up quickly. I will try to answer as many questions as I can, mini-amma style. Saving this comment for further study. That my last boss secretly hated me even though we had, on the surface, a very positive relationship. My boss acted like we were friendly and encouraged me to be open with her. And then I got fired out of nowhere. So, that was obviously an act. Edit. I get it, y'all. Huge mistake on my own part to trust this person. Lesson duly learned. That my cousin stole my holographic first edition Charizard Pokemon card back in the early 2000s. I audibly gasped. That's like a cardinal sin. George R.R. Martin will never finish the last Game of Thrones book. Conspiracy theory, he's doing it intentionally, so he will never have to risk writing a bad ending, and after his death, his books will remain legendary status forever, just like every other unfinished great projects. Oh. Life on other planets. Not green one-eyes aliens, but even insects and things like that. Same. The universe is way too big for us to be the only ones out there. Burger King hash browns are just tater tots. Aren't McDonald's hash browns essentially big tater tots? That the near complete absence of financial literacy education in American public schools is 100% on purpose. In the 80s we had financial literacy classes in public schools. Not just in my state, but in others as well, based on conversations with other people of a similar age. It is non-existent now. My school system had a semester-long course where we were given an imaginary household to manage, from creating a budget, paying bills, dealing with surprise expenses like repairs, investing in the stock market, and filling out a 10-40 tax form. We even had to use the newspaper to research local voting issues. Our grade was based on our ability to keep the household afloat and answer basic questions about local government. This was a required course to receive a diploma. My parents taught me nothing of this at home. It was mainly learned at school and trial and error as an adult. I feel that few parents of my generation teach their kids these skills now. I'm a restaurant manager, and I take extra time helping younger employees figure out basic finances to help them get their lives on the right track. I'm always amazed at how their parents never help them set up a bank account, debt management, get their own auto insurance, etc. If we want the world to be better, we need to tackle things that are intimidating to us and help the younger generation learn. I exist, and if it really is all the Matrix, I don't have any bones anyway. Blue pill please. I forgot, what do the red and blue pills stand for? That there is other intelligent life in the universe. We may never encounter it, certainly not within any of our lifetimes, but it's out there somewhere. The universe is too goddamn big for us to be the only ones. Edit. If you are reading this and thinking of making a joke about how humans are not intelligent, well, I'm sorry, but approximately 100 people have beaten you to it. We have hardly explored the ocean in its entirety on our own damn planet, so it's amazing to think what else could be out there in the universe. If I'm stuck in traffic and switch lanes because the other lane looks like it will move faster, the lane I just switched from will automatically go faster. However, if you don't switch lanes, your lane will still go slow. So go ahead and switch lanes. Even though it doesn't change your commute time, it speeds it up for the rest of us. Flat earthers are just doing it for attention. They really don't think the earth is flat. That's how it started off, sure. Y'all, the question says without evidence. Exactly. Here's what I know for sure without any evidence, / proceeds to give all the evidence. Life exists outside of Earth. I can't imagine a universe where we are the only life. It would defy all odds that we are the only living thing in an endless space of planets. Each star in the sky has the potential for life, and there are so many more we can't see. I'm really ducking lucky. But like in a subtle way, like, if there's a 95% chance he'll get hurt doing something stupid, it'll come out unscathed. Sometimes I think there's a guardian angel watching over me, making sure I don't kill myself by being an idiot. You/Groot, the tree could fall into a dumpster full of ricks and come out sucking his thumb. Deja vu comes from previous dreams. Holy chiz, I thought I was the only one. I'll go through something and then think, I had a dream about this several weeks ago. I can read very useless parts of the future. That the entire US mattress industry is a front for criminal organizations. Virtually every city has more mattress stores than it needs. When was the last time you bought a mattress? So then why does a city of 80,000 have like 7 separate mattress retail places within like 6 blocks? I completely agree that there is definitely something more to the mattress store industry. The 3 times in my life, since college, that I have bought a mattress, these stores are always standing empty of customers until I roll in. It almost feels Truman Show-esque where I stop through to browse and all of a sudden, 3 to 4 cast members come in as customers to maybe promote the positive vibes of buying a mattress. I could go on for far too long about this industry. It is so weird. There is some Godzilla chiz at the bottom of our oceans. Deep sea gigantism will not fail me. If it's any consolation, if giants do exist down there, they will probably stay down there. Ocean creatures tend to stay in their zone of water pressure because that's what their bodies have adapted to. Some have more range than others. Ever seen a blobfish? Ever seen what a blobfish is supposed to look like at the depth it's supposed to live at? It gets all ducked up when it gets brought to the surface because of the water pressure differential. See also, giant squids. One of the only reasons we know they exist is because they die and float up here or are very close to death and can't maintain proper buoyancy. They don't want to be up here, they prefer the crushing blackness. My phone is listening to me. It's simply not a coincidence anymore how my targeted ads change directly related to and after a conversation. People say we are just more predictable than we think, but I mentioned something I haven't even thought about for years and there it is on Instagram. A buddy of mine had a weird experience with this one. We were hanging out, playing a crafting game on Steam. I begin mining, and he accidentally falls into the hole I'm in, because it was kinda hidden in the foliage. This happens a few times, so he makes up a pretend organization with initials he made up, think FCC or CIA, saying their regulations require holes to be marked. It's a fun joke. Anytime he wants me to do something he asks from the point of view of it's part of the guidelines. It's the law. There will be fines if you don't comply. Never once was it typed, searched, anything. Just verbally spoken. And then we both start getting ads for a company with those initials, apparently belonging to a real company that we were 100% unaware of. Weird shiz, dude. My ex-boss used COVID as an excuse to make me redundant because I was the only member of his team to be hired by someone else and not him. Duck that guy forever. Lots of companies are using COVID to get away with all kinds of chiz right now. That the funeral home by my house is run by some sort of criminal organization. I always see the same gangster looking guys hanging out in front of it smoking cigars and drinking beers. Does this funeral home have its own crematorium by any chance? Ozak has taught me that it can be a really convenient way to get rid of bodies. Not everyone is meant to raise a child. Just because you can biologically create a child or financially support one does not mean you are meant to raise one. Thank you. Honestly, some people think even just the biological part is enough. I don't care who you are, or what you think, or even what the science says. Geese are evil creatures. No good creature has teeth on their tongue. 1 in every 3 or 4 people is not capable of critical thinking. And I'm not making some kind of point about politics or anything. I mean those people are literally incapable of taking an information and synthesizing it with other information and coming to their own conclusions. They're basically robots programmed by whatever source is most convincing to them. I've considered the same idea at one point in time. I think that the population that is genuinely incapable isn't something like 1 in 4. It's probably lower, but it's far more likely that a greater portion of the population inconsistently applies critical thinking. An example of this would be someone who can apply it when they're at work, but does not do the same when it comes to other aspects of their life. hash / underscore / big shrug cause with a duck nose in the end. I sure don't. I can only speculate. Edit. A word for clarity. I watched Flight 93 go down. I would never share that in real life because it's stuck in Gram and no one would believe you. The geography of the reports are off. I saw it clear as day from Kent State's main campus, Ohio. I didn't know what I was seeing other than I remember thinking, that plane is way too low. We had a aviation college, so planes were common, and too big and it's jerking around like how a toddler drives a Power Wheels truck. Continued on to clap. You don't wanna be late even at a liberal college. What you almost certainly saw was it being taken over by the hijackers. During the hijacking, which was at 9:28 am, maybe a 9:30 clap, during the takeover it was very jerky and lost a lot of altitude, and it took a while for the hijackers to stabilize it and get it under control and turn it around. Edit. If you look at the track of Flight 93 it likely would have been visible from the Kent State campus on its westward path. On its post-hijack return flight it parred farther south, over the top of West Virginia. There is probably 7 degrees of separation from everyone and a serial killer. That number is probably lower than 7. Edit. Make it 3 degrees. I don't know the real number. The number doesn't matter to me. Really the point was we're all close to a serial killer. Him from the same town as a very famous serial killer. Not hard to find, you're only 1 or 2 degrees away from one. Back when I was 10 there was a competition for school kids to write a treatment for an episode of Doctor Who, with the best one being developed into an full episode in the next series and the winner receiving a writing credit. I was a huge fan of DW at the time and the competition was actually run through schools, so my teacher made the entire class do it, but I was very excited. I began writing a story about the Doctor landing on a planet full of defective Cybermen, whose programming had gone awry, and had been left on this asylum planet to rot. The Doctor lands there in response to a mysterious distress call from a woman and attempts to find and save her, while avoiding the dangerous dysfunctional Cybermen and the looming threat of planetary destruction at the hands of the normal Cybermen. I finished my short treatment and gave it to my teacher to submit. Unfortunately it turned out the competition was very strict about the formatting of submissions and mine was returned because I had used the wrong formatting in some way. It seemed like a weird reason. I was a bit disappointed, and that was the end of that. But then, a year or 2 later, there was an episode of DW called Asylum of the Daleks, which seemed incredibly similar to my story except with Daleks. So incredibly, eerily similar in fact, that to this day I'm absolutely convinced that Stephen Moffat saw my script and came up with a formatting excuse so that he could remove me from the competition, steal my story, change the bad guys and claim it as his own. I have zero evidence. I don't even still have the treatment I wrote or any letter from the BBC about my submission, and yet I know in my bones that Stephen Moffat stole his script from 10 years old me. I believe you. Edit. Wow, this is my highest karma comment and my first award. That 1 to 2 generations down the line, our use of technology will lead to extreme mental health issues. My brain feels deep fried from time to time, and I haven't seriously started using a smartphone before I was already an adult. I hate how much I use my phone. I sometimes daydream about going back to a flip phone without the ability to access social media. I'll scroll through social media for hours every day, telling myself you need to do something better with your time. You hate this? Just put the phone down and do something else. Had a funny meme. I saw a live bee when I was younger, and when I tell someone they never believe me. I did too. I was a kid. I think I'm just stupid. It was dead, as big as my fist, and ants were eating it. That alien life forms will be nothing like we have ever imagined. Edit. This comment has gotten kind of popular. Thanks for all your comments. This had made me realize how little we truly know about the universe. A lot of the comments here have made me start googling new topics, and that has led me to a YouTube video that summarizes what I'm trying to say much more eloquently and intelligently. YouTube. I forget the name of it, but there's a mini series with Stephen Hawking with a full hour dedicated to this. Edit. I'm 90% sure it's Into the Universe with Stephen Hawking. since the Manhattan Project, building of the nuke during WWII by a small group of scientists with unlimited resources. Government/billionaires got spooked, and science, with a capital S, is no longer a free market of ideas, where any good idea can get pursued. Instead, scientists are very carefully guided towards projects with a funding model that is quite, perverse. Source: I'm a public funded scientist who's published in Cell. Still no real evidence for this though. I've made a similar comment before, but I'll make it again. Don't forget that, if you perform science that someone doesn't like, they will most likely get rid of you and find someone who performs science in a manner that gets the results that they do like. I absolutely loved the time I spent in biology, but for the life of me, I'm glad I got out before I was too deep. My cat knocked over the water glass on purpose. As the timeless saying goes, cat knows, cat doesn't care. The Truman Show was made to make me think the entire world watching my every move was a ridiculous notion. But I know better. I remember watching the episode where you watch that movie. The world is not ready for a bald messy Pelado. Getting a name tattooed on your body is a curse both on you and the person whose name is on you for as long as you wear it. Tell that to my father, who has his own name tattooed on his arm. I think he reversed the curse by doing that because of the amount of luck has gotten in life. As a nation, I can safely say without a doubt that you don't need cups to measure the water when cooking rice. You do if you work for BBC Food. Epstein didn't kill himself. Counter conspiracy theory: Epstein killed himself before the others he knew would come get him good. I'm essentially a good decent person. I may not act this out successfully, it's the fact that I keep trying to act it out relentlessly that makes it true. We judge people based on their actions, but judge ourselves based on our intentions. Teddy Roosevelt cured his childhood asthma by sheer force of will. Don't a lot of people just kind of lose their asthma at some point? Not that it is something I believe to be true, but something that I often think about is the butterfly effect. Like little things I do during the day could affect the total outcome of my day. I stopped for ice cream the other day on the drive home, and when we got back on the highway there had been a mild accident where the back of a red Porsche was just incinerated. Maybe we would have been hit if we hadn't gone to Dairy Queen. McDonald's Coke hits different than any Coke I've ever had. Edit. Thanks for the awards, kind strangers. Let's get a Coke sometime. Whenever I do Coke in McDonald's, in love in it. For me, no matter what happens, no matter what I do or don't do, no matter what I achieve or fail at, I know my dog will still love me and wag his tail when I get home. Dogs are the best. That we would be happier if we returned to a more natural way of living, rather than the 9-to-5 rat race, like 12-to-7 on the field. That Andy Dufresne was guilty in the Shawshank Redemption. It's never actually proven that he didn't kill his wife and her lover. We just have his word and a story made up by an inmate that wanted to be liked by Andy and his friends. Also, what are the chances that his wife and lover were murdered the same night that Andy was going to kill them himself before he changed his mind? Whoa. Just realized that the entire story is narrated by Red, and Red really doesn't know whether Andy was guilty or not. Only Andy knows Red just believes he innocent. Cassie Anthony killed her daughter and her parents know it too. Edit. Thanks for the 2 rewards everyone. I've never gotten them before now. To me there's definitely evidence, but the justice system failed that poor baby. And to me, what's worse is last year she apparently said she wants another child/children. That this fart I'm carrying right now is not to be trusted. I mean, you have evidence of that. You've got years of historical data, archival photographs of skid marks. You can be as sure of this as the sun rising. We're all too in over our heads. This is truth, dude. This society is so fragile. We can't build even the simplest components we rely on. I'm a software engineer and I have no idea what's going on. Most company CEOs don't really know what they're doing. Whether their business thrives or fails has more to do with luck than anything else. There are exceptions, but most of them have a completely warped sense of their own brilliance. I think you have to make an addendum. Most non-founding CEOs, if you found a company and can grow it to moderate success, you do know what you're doing. No one cares about growing a company more than the largest shareholder, and if they don't know what they're doing, they'll hire someone that does. Source: my mom founded her own mildly successful company and I know how specialized her field of intelligence is, in regards to her business at least. If anyone else in her company has a question, she's the first they'll ask. Having the most upvotes doesn't mean the statement is true. True. Have a side vote. My cat is in a constant superposition of having recently eaten and being starved to death. At least, that's how she acts. Also, any of my feelings about myself can't contradict or disprove those, no matter how hard you try. Sugar is really the worst source of problems in our chronic health crisis. And liquid sugar doubly so. Stop drinking that soda, people. It is making you profoundly sick. The same with fruit juices. They are not much better than soda. Tons of liquid sugar. Cut your sugar consumption to a quarter. Your body will thank you. You do not even have to abstain totally. Eat some pie on your kid's birthday. That is okay. But stop the casual everyday consumption. You will quickly become leaner and the threat of having diabetes mellitus second type in the future will likely go away. Sugar, or better said fructose, which forms half of table sugar, acts as a chronic poison if you keep eating it in large quantities. We are not built to consume a lot of sugar. Edit, added Morant. There's plenty of evidence that supports this though. Absolutely nothing, only the Sith deal in absolutes. This is itself an absolute claim. Are you a Sith? For every sock that goes missing a Tupperware lid appears. I 100% agree with this. I have a basket with just one sock to a pair and about 40 Tupperware lids without bottoms. Back when I was 18 I got my first tattoo, the Squaresoft logo on my upper arm. It was 2001 and I was also on my own in a new state. I was and still am a huge RPG fan and it's the height of my geekdom. Well, I sent in a picture of me and my tattoo with a short letter about me and my favorite games to official PlayStation magazine. They published my letter and photo along with the caption, "We don't know whether to be impressed or frightened." The very next month they started a tattoo of the month section and I'm absolutely sure 100% that I either started that or was the story that proved the concept, the test. Unless someone can come from that team's time and tell me I'm not, I'll always believe I was the start of that. Edit, here is a current pic of the tat. I looked for several hours to try and find the original that I sent in. I thought I had it saved, but I guess it's lost forever. Sorry everyone. As a member of the creative team, of which I'm not, I can tell you that you are 100% the inspiration. Dogs go to doggy heaven. Consider this, dogs go to regular heaven and wait for us to come up there. That my life is better without children. Been married 12 happy years and I'm sure that's why. Every once in a while I have this conversation with my wife. You want kids? IDK. You? IDK. Been having that conversation for 10 years. Kayla is a ducking bitch. Wrong, they said without proof. I got nothing but. No matter how loosely you interpret the law, Donald Trump has committed or attempted to commit dozens of felonies in his life. I frequently see people deny he's done things he's publicly admitted to. I know for certain that the comments on this post would look different on Facebook, but seriously, I really love that Reddit has a voting/ranking system that actually changes the experience of the other people at the site. Or hidden behind anonymous usernames, rather than "oh what did that bitch Stephanie from my high school class say now?" That I have felt love. I'm really not sure if this is what others have felt and called love, but if it is not, I don't know what is. Yes, this. I lived 20 years with the feeling that I, with 100% certainty, called love. I had some not serious and a serious relationship and thought I know it all. Then, after a few months I started uni, I met that one person, had a very short chit chat and the whole persona just burned into my everything. I imagined what would have been like to do everyday things together, and I realized feelings that I've never felt before had developed. and the ones I felt and adored in my only serious relationship, and that was deeper than a fired up crush thing, didn't even come close to this. Trump never intended to actually win. All you need to see is his attitude during election and his attitude after winning. His face just screamed "Chiz, I actually won." Bread always falls on the buttered side. I swear internet people drop bread every day. I have never dropped my bread. Firm grip and unwavering eye contact. A bit more lighthearted than some stuff on here, but I believe that your state of mind, vibe, energy, whatever you want to call it, when preparing food will reflect in the food itself. If you're stressed to hell and make dinner, no matter how well cooked or presentable the food is, there's gonna be bad juju in it, and it'll just taste different. I'm generally a skeptic, but this is my ride or die superstition. Edit. Whoa, gold. Thank you, kind stranger. Edit #2, sweet cheeses, this blew up. Big shout out to you / Lost Fortunes for the cute lil award. Just to clarify to a few dissenters, which is fine, many men, many minds, right, I actually work in the food industry. Got my culinary degree, worked back of house and front of house in restaurants and hotels, the whole nine. I've seen James Beard winning chefs create great food while absolutely losing their chiz. It still never comes out as good as the chiz that they make for staff's family meal on a slow day. I'm better than what my depression and anxiety disorders tell me I'm. Edit. Thanks for the silver, gold and 1k upvotes. The response for this was a lot bigger than I expected it to be. Those of you who are struggling right now, you can do it if you need to reach out, but aren't ready / don't feel safe to talk to family or friends. I'd recommend searching up charities like Mind and YouTube channels like Psych2Go. More of their older videos. Newer ones tend to focus on relationships that focus on trying to improve your mental health by explaining common issues and difficulties that even the most average person can go through, and provide advice on how to navigate these issues. Duck those disorders up, my friend. That being sick with a bacterial infection as an infant and almost dying is the reason why I'm never sick despite being a super unhealthy person. When I was in 10th grade I came down with one hell of a sickness. Not like any regular cough and sore throat sickness. I'm talking like 104 fever. Hard to see, could not even put myself into the reality that I was awake type of sickness. I remember being in school, I was a perfect attendance kid, and being pulled out of clatter talk with my sister who lives across the state, but I know that couldn't have happened, and I think I was just having fever dreams while awake. My point is, after this I never got sick. Ever. I threw up once in my 20s from drinking too much the night before, but I've never had a fever or anything of the sort since. The most I've gotten was a sore throat from allergies. It's been over 15 years, and I still haven't gotten sick. No evidence to say this is why, but I've always told people the same thing as you. I know that love is never easy. Being with anyone for any extended period of time is hard and takes work from both partners. It doesn't matter how well you get along, if things are easy, someone is probably not speaking up about something. It has to do with both partners understanding this perspective, but also not enabling bad behavior simply by virtue of it be okay that it is hard sometimes. It's a careful balance. I've found in many of my relationships, if both parties are really seeking to understand the other one twice as hard as they are trying to be understood, then it all goes much smoother. Cats can talk, but they're hiding it from us. Not my cat. He talks to me all the time. I just can't understand him. Good music makes life worth living. That we are screwing up our only house in the name of the economy. It does have several proofs. Every generation after my own is fucked, including my own. Between climate change and a probable environmental collapse, pandemics in a society that just doesn't seem to give a chiz, a seemingly irreversible declining middle class with a smaller but ever more powerful kleptocratic class, and global political ideology that is creeping closer and closer to totalitarianism, that I have signed up my completely innocent and joyful 18-month-old toddler to a life of suffering that will absolutely eclipse my own struggles and hardships. Dude. It's like that post got teletyped from my brain. The world of my son's future will be so different to mine that I'm at a loss as to what, if anything, I can do or say to prepare him. People with lower IQs are happier because they aren't constantly overthinking, looking for self-transcendence, analyzing everything around them, and expecting too much of themselves. I love having backyard chickens. Alright. Tell me more. Cause I've been thinking about this, and I can definitely see good and bad stuff in owning them. What's so great about backyard chickens? Oh my. You watched until the end? That's ducking awesome, dude. Thanks for watching.